You know, it's very noteworthy that when the Republicans and the Democrats in the Senate and Congress can't agree on anything, and with the president and with each other, specifically with each other, but with the president, even it's even more extreme. I mean, the president could say 2 plus 2 is 4, and they would find an obscure mathematician from 1920 in Austria who said that, on a certain day in 2,000 years, at the northernmost point of the North Pole, it could technically round off to 4.5, and then there would be a debate if that would make sense to me. I mean, 2 plus 2 is 5 if you rounded that off as well. Yet, on this issue of Israel, the most controversial country on earth, a capital that is not recognized, Jerusalem, Trump moving the American embassy to Jerusalem doesn't get a peep from anybody. The Democrats don't care. I watched part of CNN. Nothing. I mean, they hate Trump. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich does not have bread necessarily to CNN if Trump believes that. Nothing. I mean, they mentioned it's a little controversial, but there was no teeth, nothing to it. No Democrats have come out against this. Nothing. And that shows you the influence that Israel has on this country. And I mean, this Jerusalem being the capital has been in both party platforms, Democrat and Republican, for 20 years or something like that, right? And it just shows you that, and these two parties can agree on nothing. They're as polarized as polarization can get, and there's no issue on this most controversial topic of a country on earth. Yet, the Democrats go on and on about Russia, Russia meddling in our policies. Why? To affect our policies. Why? To affect our foreign policy. So a foreign country is trying to influence our foreign policy, and that's a huge problem, right? And it should be. It should be, if we're true in that case. But guess what? That's not what it's about. We know that's not what it's about. Because if it were about that, they would care about Israel affecting our foreign policy, right? AIPAC is the most powerful lobby in the United States. Israel's a tiny country. They have the most powerful lobby, not per capita, but in period in the United States, right? The amount of senators and congressmen who go to AIPAC events is huge. It's a bipartisan thing. I mean, I think Rand Paul was going to say something, and then what happened to him? Who knows? And so, I think maybe he did say something once, but so, I mean, it's not, if Russia were really the issue, they pretend it is, then they would care about Israel having so much influence on us, to the point where that even this most controversial move in the international society, the international world, I don't want to say international society, nothing, not a peep from the Democrats, nothing. This guy can do nothing right, no issue. CNN, whatever, it's fine. That tells you so much. And, remember, it was a Supreme Court decision in 1967 with a Polish-born man who became a naturalized American citizen, or I don't know, I forget natural. He became an American citizen, and then he voted in an election in Israel. That case was brought to the Supreme Court. It overturned our entire legal history and philosophy that you can't vote in other elections and be an American citizen. You can't be a dual citizen, right? And in fact, the Supreme Court in 1958 had decided that as well. They had said, yes, this is correct in the same situation. But now it was an Israeli. And now they voted in a 4-5 decision, which is what is, our country has been killed by one person on the Supreme Court. This was the Achilles heel of the United States. Because Eisenhower said it was his biggest regret, that because a lot of Republicans didn't vet. They just said, who's got the best credentials, Who's the smartest person with the most experience that would be good for this? And they didn't think, well, what are this person's personal policies? So it's the law. They just have to interpret the law. They're smart. They've spent a lot of time in law. They can interpret the law. as it was intended. No, they see it as an evolving thing that they then have to decipher through their personal politics with a heavy suspicion or just default dislike of past president, right? But that wasn't factored in. So anyway, in this decision in 1967, they overruled it. And now we have, I believe they're exclusively Israeli-American dual citizenship holders in elected office. And that is a complete travesty of the sovereignty of this country. This country doesn't deserve to live if it doesn't correct that. It doesn't. It's a freak show. It's somebody who shoots themselves, in the head every day and lives or something. You know what I mean? Some ridiculous thing where you just go, this is a travesty to the entire concept of reason and logic and sovereignty and nations. I mean, you've given it up. And it's also a real horrible, horrible insult to all of the Germans and Japanese and Italians and English who fought their own country, sometimes in total war, to then have these Israeli dual citizen holders in public office, yet alone anybody as a common person. That's such a travesty. I mean, those people, how could you even look somebody like that in the face, But so again and again, we see this pattern of incredible influence for Israel at the total expense of our own country. And it's not like if it were Iceland, it would be a major problem theoretically, but this is an incredibly controversial country and situation. I mean, Israel destabilized the entire Middle East. That's what I think. I think that if you look at the period before 1948, the Muslim world was really generally, and in that region specifically, going over a very relaxed period of religiosity, a lot of secularism. If there was going to be a time for a reformation in the Muslim world or parts of the Muslim world, that was it. It was heading right for that, And the creation of Israel radicalized it. I mean, think about this. A post-war colonial religious state of conquest in the Levant. Am I talking about A, ISIS, or B, Israel? But based on what I said, you couldn't tell me. It could be either one. And it marginalized the secular people, threw them into the shadows, the reformists, the moderate people, or it destroyed them. As you would expect it to. As you would expect something like that to do. And we are very arrogant and just ignorant when we think about Israel, I mean, Israel even calls itself a Western country, What that did to that region is horrible. Of course it destabilized. Of course it radicalized. There's no way there's a 9/11 without that dynamic beforehand. And what would that do to the United States? I mean, or Europe. But Europe has been so hit by World War II. Just think of the United States. What would that do? Foreign religion comes in, takes over an area of the United States, says this is our religious fundamentalist state. What would that do to sort of the kind of whimsidaisical Christians or whatever in the area? And yet this is the country with the most powerful influence, and it's not even controversial. And now we have dual citizenship holders even in public office. It's not about influencing our elections, It's not about Russia influencing American policy as a foreign country. How dare a foreign country meddle in American politics for its own gain? Because it's not doing it because they're punks, And that's not even the issue. Because if that were the issue, we would talk about Israel.